Let me ask you something. If people on opposite sides of the world who never met, never spoke, have nothing to gain, describe the same strange thing, at what point do we stop calling that a coincidence? Tonight, we're looking at cases where the same lights come back to the same people at the same place in the same time, again and again, for years. This is Beyond the Map. For decades, witnesses have reported silent spheres of light. They're not aircraft or stars. They're not satellites or planets. They hover, they change direction abruptly, they accelerate without sound, and sometimes they appear to respond to the observer. Scientists tells us that many lights in the sky have explanations, and that's true. There's atmospheric plasma, ball lightning, optical artifacts, and many sightings are exactly that. But others last too long. They move too deliberately. They return to the same spot too often, sometimes around the same people. So tonight, we're not here to decide what these lights are. We're here to ask different questions. Why do some of these lights refuse to behave like anything we understand? Across the world, people who share no culture, no language, and no connection report and describe the exact same thing. Small spheres of light, often white, amber, or bluish. They appear suddenly in the sky. They don't blink like aircraft, and they don't drift around like lanterns. They don't behave like stars or satellites. These lights have been reported over farmland, forests, beaches, coastline, deserts, and near sensitive military and research locations.
They have MacDill here, MacDill Air Force Base, in the air base. I mean, as far as proximity, from here, about 15 to 20 miles.
Some are captured on cell phones, others on infrared cameras, and some on sophisticated sensor platforms. Many are witnessed by people who never set out in the first place to document anything unusual at all. What makes these sightings very compelling isn't just how strange they look, it's how often the same details appear, whether the witnesses expect it or not. There's silent movement, sudden acceleration, and then the sharp changes in direction. Appearances that last just long enough to be noticed before mysteriously vanishing. Researchers generally divide these reports into two broad categories. The first, grounded in known science, is rare atmospheric phenomena. Plasma effects, ball lightning, and optical illusions caused by cameras and environmental conditions. In many cases, these explanations hold up. But then there's a second category, reports where the lights appear to respond, where they return repeatedly, where these movements suggest something closer to control rather than mere chance. So the question isn't whether some orb sightings are explainable. They are. The real question is, why do many of these lights across decades and continents continue to resist easy explanation? Now, before we talk about what these lights might be, we need to address what they often are. If we skip this part, everything that follows becomes meaningless. But even after all this is considered, something still doesn't fit.
Showing reflection on these clouds of their light source.
A large percentage of orb sightings do have explanations, and ignoring that does more harm than good. One of the most commonly cited explanations is ball lightning. Ball lightning is a rare atmospheric phenomena that appears as a glowing sphere, sometimes hovering, sometimes moving erratically, often during or after electrical storms. It's been reported for centuries, photographed on rare occasions, and studied, though it's not still fully understood. On paper, it fits, until you look at how long some of these lights remain visible. There are also plasma-based explanations, ionized gases that glow under specific electromagnetic conditions. Again, plausible, until reports describe precise movement and repeat appearances. Another explanation involves geological stress lights, the so-called earthquake lights. Luminous events caused by tectonic stress releasing electrical charges from rock formations. And then there are explanations that account for a huge number of modern sightings: camera artifacts, out of focus light sources, what photographers call bokeh. It can turn distant lights into floating spheres. Insects flying close to an infrared camera can appear as a fast moving orb. And there's lens flare and sensor bloom and compression artifacts and on and on. And many of these viral orb videos fall under the frame by frame analysis into those categories. And it matters because serious investigations start with eliminating the ordinary.
We have to get verification. So we do use vessel tracker when we see objects on the water. We have Flight Radar 24 and some other software programs that we use to track planes, aircraft in the air. We've dealt with all the Starlink guys and all that stuff and coming against us on positioning, and we've ruled all that out.
But here's the story, and it's where it becomes more complicated. Ball lightning rarely lasts more than a few seconds. Plasma doesn't typically maneuver with precision or on command, and geological lights don't respond to observers. And camera artifacts don't appear at the same location over and over for months or years. Yet some of these reports describe exactly that. Lights that remain visible for extended periods, phenomena that returns again and again, sometimes documented by multiple witnesses using different devices.
I use a Beaver Lab telescope, the 500 millimeter, and I've used the iPhone 16 and the 4K high def along with my own naked eye and others and captured these orbs to the very second.
So while science explains much of what we see, a smaller category remains. Not because science has failed, but because the data doesn't fully cooperate. These cases are where the same phenomena are tied to specific locations or to specific people. Cases documented over years, not moments. These are the cases where explanations don't disappear, but they stop being sufficient. And it's here, at that boundary, that the most important questions begin. That brings us to three very different cases: a place, a person, and a camera that never stops watching. This isn't the story from decades ago. It's happening right now. For years, Dave Metcalf has operated a continuous fixed camera monitoring project known as the UFO webcam. The cameras don't move, and the vantage point doesn't change very much. They record the same stretch of coastal sky and water night after night right outside of their condo in Pinellas County, Florida.
It started as a hobby to where I was just, of course, excited being on the beach, being at the beach house. And instead of watching TV, I'd be out on the deck all the time.
This is the detail investigators can't miss. The camera stays at the same place and the phenomena comes back. It keeps coming back.
We have captured 1,500 videos, time date stamp, from the same location on this beach deck. We have captured what we call 5 portals, 5 times.
It's long-term documentation, and over time, something unusual began to appear. Small spheres of light, often appearing without warning, captured repeatedly offshore. Not once, not twice, but dozens and dozens of times, across seasons, across weather conditions, across years. Some remain stationary. Others move more deliberately. They change direction, they accelerate, they vanish abruptly, without sound, without visible propulsion. Because the cameras are fixed, many common explanations can't be tested. Reflections change with camera movement. These don't. Insects behave erratically near the lens. These don't. Aircraft approach from a distance and depart predictably. These don't. In several instances, the lights appear shortly after attention is drawn to the area, as if responding not to the environment, but to the observation itself. This isn't a claim of intelligence. It's an observation of interaction. And it raises a question that refuses to go away. Why does this phenomena keep returning to the exact same place under the same camera day after day? At Skinwalker Ranch, an orb-like phenomenon has been documented time and time again under conditions to infrared cameras, ground sensors, radiation detectors, electromagnetic instruments. Luminous spheres appear suddenly, move across terrain, and vanish without sound or visible propulsion.
We have video of multiple, what is that right there? Orange, purple, and blue orb-like phenomena, and many of them we've captured in infrared, so we don't know what color they were. The orbs seem to be some size, say between a volleyball out to maybe the size of a car.
What makes these events notable isn't just how they look, it's when they occur. In multiple instances, orb appearances coincides with spikes in electromagnetic activity or equipment interference.
The signs that we see is that GPS on the ranch nearby the phenomena seems to suddenly lose its mind.
They don't behave like weather, and they don't behave like animals. They don't behave like conventional aircraft. Most anomalies are associated with places, but some appear tied to individuals. For more than a decade, Chris Bledsoe and those around him have reported recurring sightings of luminous orbs, not once, but repeated across years, sometimes witnessed by others, sometimes documented.
Took the time. Thank you. Thank you for this. You can see the size of this thing. It's huge. It's December the 8th, 2021.
These experiences have drawn attention from researchers and officials. During periods when Bledsoe was in Washington, D.C., multiple witnesses reported orb sightings over the city, mirroring descriptions from his earlier encounters elsewhere.
Photographs and videos. Tell me, please, obviously you were there that night, but what did you see and why do you believe that what you saw that night was anomalous? And we'll probably run sections of the video as you're talking over this.
Okay. It's such a good question because at first, my optimistic brain always wants to think something's immediately is anomalous, but the science brain kicks in and goes through the things of, well, I know it's not, parallax because I'm not watching this from a video like I usually have done when I was a part of the task force. And I think of, the 5-minute rule. But
Now, this doesn't prove causation, but atmospheric phenomena doesn't follow individuals. Camera artifacts don't appear across geography, and coincidence becomes harder to rely on when patterns persist across time and place.
Repetition. And what does that do for us? Repetition of what we're seeing can possibly bring us theories.
Long duration cases matter, not because they prove something extraordinary, but because dismissing them requires ignoring consistent patterns. Across these cases, patterns emerge, repeat locations, repeat individuals. Individually, none of these traits prove anything, but repeated across independent cases, they form a pattern that's difficult to ignore. What's striking isn't how strange these encounters are, it's how consistent they are. So where does this leave us? Science explains many of the sightings. These explanations matter, they keep us grounded, but a smaller set of cases remain, repeated, documented, and unresolved. Not because they're extraordinary, but because the data is incomplete. Phenomena doesn't disappear when we ignore them. They disappear when we understand them. And at this stage, the most honest answer is also the simplest one. We don't know. And acknowledging that isn't a failure of science. It's how science moves forward. If you've seen something like this, if you've witnessed unexplained lights that don't fit easy explanations, or if you have a grounded theory worth considering, share it in the comments because the story of these lights isn't finished. And understanding them may depend less on certainty and more on our willingness to keep asking the right questions. If you enjoy our strange stories, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. This is Beyond the Map. I'm Buddy T, and we'll see you next time.